I'm really excited about today's topic. We're going to be going over the importance of having that sales and marketing alignment and how that really affects messaging in your marketing and why it's so critical. You know, it's way too often that sales and marketing are very siloed. They don't talk to each other. Sales gets mad that marketing isn't putting out stuff that's relevant to them and vice versa, and everyone's saying, what's going on here? So making sure that you're on the same page is critical. So today we're going to be talking with Stephen Timmy and Melody Astley of Finlistics, who are going to walk us through that importance of having that alignment between sales and marketing and how that can make a measurable impact for your business. I'm Danny Gonzalez, and this is Industrial Sage. All right, let's go ahead and kick off this episode as we jump into really the importance of that sales and marketing alignment. And before we get going, I'd love our guests, if you guys can introduce yourselves. We have Melody Astley here and Stephen Timmy here. Melody, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, Stephen and I are both with Finlistics Solutions. We're out of Atlanta, Georgia, or well, actually Alpharetta, but Atlanta, Georgia. And what Finlistics does is we work with B2B sales and marketing organizations to help them be more effective with their sales and marketing efforts around messaging, and how do you really tie the types of solutions or products that you're selling to something that means something to the client, to a business outcome or something quantifiable that shows business results. For Finlistics, I run sales and help on the leadership team as well with strategy and strategy execution.
Excellent, great.
Yeah,
Stephen?
and I'm Stephen Timmy, founder of Finlistics. Did it almost 25 years ago, and so my role is founder and having people like Melody around. I really don't have to do that much except be the spokesmodel, but I'm also an adjunct professor at the Georgia Institute of Technology, and in a previous life before founding Finlistics, I was also a professor of finance at Emory University as well as Georgia State University. So thanks for having us.
Excellent. No, thanks for coming on. This is great. And this is a really important topic for our audience, because I think now there's a lot of confusion, and there just seems to be, we're seeing some shifts in technology and shifts in the messaging and the marketing, where maybe before, back in the day, it used to be a little bit more from a sales and maybe from a marketing standpoint. Hey, we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You want to do business with us because we're the best, and our products can do X, Y, Z. And I think things might have shifted a little bit. Are you seeing that?
Fortunately, yes. In fact, Melody, if you want to talk about this whole shift in buying behavior, I know you see it on a day-to-day basis, but...
Yes. The buying landscape is changing, and that impacts both sales and marketing and how they go about what they need to do to resonate with their clients, their buyers. So the first thing we see, and Danny, you brought it up, technology is there. The technology is in place. We hear more about, for instance, account-based marketing today than we ever have before. In digital marketing, you can touch, when you're smart about it, you can align your touch and your campaign so that you're touching the right people at the right time with the right message. Now, the challenge isn't the first stuff. The technology takes care of it. The challenge is the message. How do you make sure that you get that message correct? And that is one of the challenges that we do see is the heritage marketing, heritage sales message is, I have the fastest product or the most efficient product, or we serve clients in 50 countries, or we've been around for 100 years, or we, this inside out view as opposed to the outside in view. And there's a misalignment there, because clients they've done their research. Just as technology enables marketing, technology enables buyers to get smarter because they have an access to information that they've never had before, right? So how do you, once they're educated, how do you put your sales and marketing messages in the context of a real business outcome for your clients? And that's easier said than done, but we'll talk about that more in a bit.
And to add to that, it's not just getting what we call the message correct. Now you've got, right, in most of these larger deals, you have multiple stakeholders. Like I'm chief operating officer, and I'm the CTO, or I'm the CFO, being a finance type. Well, I mean, we're all working on the same goal, let's say, but how you have to communicate to me as the finance person versus chief operating officer, and using this industry-specific speak is a lot different than here's the glossy that everyone's supposed to read and get the message. They don't.
Right. Yeah, actually, well, and it goes, back to a couple of previous episodes that we've had, we were talking about just the importance of really having a strategy, and in that strategy, nailing down that persona, those persona developments, because you're selling, you could be selling the same product inside the same organization, but there's going to be buying decisions for totally different reasons. So your COO down to procurement to the actual, the guy who's going to be using, that tool or whatever you're selling, totally different buying reasons, right?
That's right.
Yeah, as well as how they process information. There was a study that came out a few years ago, and it was, much to my chagrin, said that people in marketing were like 40% more creative than us finance types. Now that hurt my feelings, but I had to agree with some of it. So how I process information versus maybe someone in operations that process that information, sales process that information. It's not just that we may have different initiatives. How you even communicate it has to be different. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, Melody, you hit on something that I wanted to kind of sort of expand on a little bit, and I want to explain for our audience. Not everyone is necessarily familiar with account-based marketing, which you brought up. Maybe go into that a little bit. Maybe a quick little definition on what that is, because we're starting to hear that a lot more.
Right. Account-based marketing, to sum it up, it's a buzzword. There's a lot of information behind it, but really account-based marketing is how do you cast a broad net that marketing needs to do to help the sales team on the ground, but make it as specific as possible. So a message for GE, for instance, could be very specific to GE, whereas one for Honeywell, for instance, needs to be specific to them. So account-based marketing isn't just casting this wide net with product or marketing slicks. It's getting very specific for an account.
So I guess my next question would be, what are some of the manifestations of some of these challenges when you don't have these things lined up? I know we're seeing a lot of issues with that. What have you guys seen?
Well, the biggest thing you see is missed opportunity. And that shows up in a couple of different ways. But if you're sending out a technical or a product-focused or an inside-out message, right? A we, and not a you, Mr. Potential or Miss Potential Client. What you're missing is, if you're not resonating that message, you're talking to the wrong level. The person who that might resonate with, a technical message or feature function specific message, is often not the executive sponsor or the final decision maker. So you could be missing opportunities altogether. And bigger than that, there is an element of a first mover advantage here. Right. So the companies who get this message right and hit it first capture the mind share of those executive buyers, and then it's a competitive loss. So not just a missed opportunity in terms of calling it the wrong person, but someone else is getting the business altogether.
Yeah, and Melanie talks about the lost revenues and really being the go-to source, but there's two other things. So if you do get the revenues, what you typically find is you're going to be settling for a lower margin, because you're just viewed as, here's this vendor providing this technical solution, and we'll figure out on our own how it aligns with our goals. What are the financial benefits of this? So one, you're going to be selling things for a lower margin when you do sell them, and two is that what you're also going to find is that the deal size itself, right? Because what if I'm selling IoT type services, but at the same time I'm providing supply chain services, I'm providing services around maintenance and those type of things. You may get those, but you're probably not going to get as much as you want. So lost revenue opportunities, lower profit margins, and smaller deal size.
No, totally. That totally makes sense. And what I guess the thing that's coming back to me with this when I hear it is, you think of Google's big thing, right? Because obviously, since the buying cycle, everything has shifted because of the technology. Think of Google. What's their big thing? Their big, if you could sum them all up in one word, it's relevancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it drills down to. So to be as relevant and as specific as possible. If you come to me and you know what my challenge is, and you can solve that challenge, and you speak directly to that, well, I'm going to listen. Especially now when we've got how much noise and how many interruptions. I think there's an old stat was like 2,000 or something. We get all kinds of interruptions throughout the day.
Right.
So
yeah,
there you
agree
go.
Completely. Sure.
That makes a lot of sense. So. Let's talk about maybe some of the messaging. Like, what should we, some of our audience out there, what we should be looking for? What's maybe a good example of that there?
I'll start off with that one. The number one thing you have to do, it all starts with the client, and there's two things. One, what are they trying to get accomplished, right? Because if they're in the public domain, and they're getting better at this, is, what I'm trying to do is digitally transform the business to have a greater customer experience. I'm trying to transform the business to have a greater workforce experience. I'm getting beat up by foreign competition, so I have to find a way to lower cost per unit. We have limited capital budget, so this equipment, I want to get as much out of it as possible. I want to have greater capacity utilization. I want to have, and they'll talk about these things. So the number one thing you got to do is say, what are they really trying to get accomplished? And if they're private, they're all in the same industry, right? So you can look at the publicly traded ones and get some inferences into what the privately held companies want. So number one, what are they really trying to get accomplished? And the example I gave earlier, sure, this company is trying to take out cost, but what they were transforming was really how do we get product to market faster? How do we have this with this product proliferation? How do we have a greater in-stock position? So part was cost. The biggest part was about driving revenues. The second thing is, how are executives compensated? Which is a part that most people, either in the marketing side or sales side, almost always leave out. I mean, when we share with companies, okay, your clients' executives are compensated this way, they think we've got insider information. Like, how did you find that? Well, it's called the annual report. Okay, so if they're compensated on growth, if they're compensated on some type of return measure, if they're compensated on safety, use that terminology. Don't come and say, we're here to improve your profitability, right? Or we're here to reduce costs. We're here to help you improve your EBITDA margin, if that's what they're compensated on. So you really got to know, what are they really trying to get done? And then two, if available, how are those executives compensated? Because that influences how they make decisions.
Right. So that's a great example there. So that would obviously work in terms of looking at the financial statements on publicly traded companies. Obviously, private that'd be a little bit more difficult. But that's a really great. That's great information there on being able to do that, and then taking those objectives and getting an understanding and framing that then in the sales process, framing that in the marketing, so that says, oh, okay, that back to that relevancy thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at it, most of them are really doing those three things: is how do we have greater operational efficiency, how do we have workforce transformation, and how do we have a greater customer experience? So maybe you got to do at least one of them, or you can't even show up at the table. You're just irrelevant. And maybe you don't do all of them, but really think about what they're trying to get done and their specific goals. A lot of times they'll say, our goal is to improve our profit margins from 10% to 12%, and it's really easy to figure out, they're looking for benefits of $100 million a year. Well, Danny, how much are you contributing? You come in and tell me you found $1 million of that $100 million, somebody might be interested, but I as an executive, it's too small.
Mm-hmm. No, that totally makes sense. So what I'm hearing out too is that this takes a little bit more work to sell those bigger, have those bigger opportunities and be able to be a little bit more effective. But the value, the potential there is much bigger. So we can't just say, okay, we're going to do this marketing piece and that thing. We're just going to spray and pray. We're going to send this out to everybody, and somebody out there, it's going to be relevant, right? Maybe, So it's very much almost like that, having that, being laser focused on those things and saying we're going to pinpoint here and here and here, versus saying, we're going to do the shotgun approach and we're just going to, hey, let's see if we can hit something.
Which does not have a very good response rate, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. No, so do you have any other practical tips or any other pieces of advice or chunks, to maybe let's say a manufacturer that's coming in and just just some simple things to be able to start to move, because that obviously to take it to this whole other levels, it takes time, right? You can't just automatically, hey, we're just gonna, this is it. So I think a lot of our viewers sometimes have that challenge to be able to say, because it's a behavioral shift, it's an organizational, what are some of those first steps to kind of start moving that boat a little bit?
Melanie, do you want to take that?
It doesn't take as much time to do this as you think. It's just a matter of getting it into motion and putting it into your practice. So there are frameworks and things that you can use that we'll go through here in a minute, but I think about it in the concept of how can you help and by how much. Now when you say how can you help, that is automatically taking this outside in view, thinking about the client, how can we help? we can help by taking out costs. Well, great. What are the elements, the drivers of cost takeout specifically that you can help with, and how much can you improve the efficiency, and where and when you can, what could be the potential financial benefits? So when you think about the how and the how much, always this is just a good place to start to kind of put yourself in the mind of your potential buyers. The other thing is when you have a big goal, a company goal that you can find in public domain and such, but if the goal is to improve operational efficiency, that's a big goal. Yeah. And so what are ways to break that down? If we all had a big goal in an organization, your part of that responsibility functionally and tactically would be different than mine, would be different than Steven's in a big organization. So talking about how you pivot the message among the buyers in an organization, this framework is a way to help you deconstruct those goals into who is it, and then also the scorecard. How are you measured to show that you're moving the needle for the area you're responsible, for the area you're responsible for the area that I'm responsible for. So we'll step through a framework here in a minute.
I'm excited to see this because there are a couple really great things. Just starting asking yourself that question, how can we help? Here's the challenge that our clients or our prospects have. How can we help solve that? I think that's awesome. Versus we need to sell that. How can we help? And then the other piece you mentioned there, right there at the end, the scorecard. So, obviously with marketing, and you really need to be having, and sales, obviously, having the ability to be able to track results and see what's working and what isn't. And so having an ability to, to be able to, bounce back off of that, I think that's great. So, if we could pull up we've got a slide here on the framework of what you're talking about. Looks what we got here. Walk us through this. What do you got going here?
Before doing that, I really want to emphasize the how and the how much, because here, people that have some idea of, we can, put these sensors in, and this goes into a data lake, we're going to do analytics, and you're going to, you walk in and tell me, okay, Danny, we're pretty confident that we can reduce your maintenance, emergency or reactive maintenance by 10 to 20%. Without telling me how, I'm like, what do you think, I'm Sparkles the Clown or something? I mean, just tell me how you're going to do that. But so what we strongly recommend people do, and it's pretty straightforward. So here's an example. This is actually taken from an actual manufacturer, and they talk about, we want to increase customer fulfillment. Well, how many people think about that? It's always like, we can help you reduce your unit cost. Well, we want to reduce or we want to increase customer fulfillment, and then we want to have these operational efficiency. Well, think about all the different parties that would be involved in that. Obviously, the chief operating officer, right? In this case, it'd be the chief financial officer. Well, I bet sales would really like to be a part of this, because anything that improves customer fulfillment, you're going to help me drive more revenue. So the first thing to do is find maybe those 3 or 4 lines of businesses that are going to be involved, and then start thinking about, well, what are going to be? They're all trying to get to the same place. But what are their different initiatives? And I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but so operations would be looking for ways to drive ongoing improvements, or how do I get the most out of the assets I've got? Because as cheap CFO types always don't want to give you any more money anyway. So how do I take this facility, and I'm at 95% capacity utilization, which it varies by region, but in a lot of industries that's the industry median. The better performers are at 98. Well, how the heck do I go from 95 to 98? So we've got these different initiatives, and below those, how is that individual? This gets back to the scorecard. How are they going to measure success? And so in the case of operations, it'd be like on-time delivery. What's the manufacturing cycle time? What are my labor costs? I mean, all those things, and start thinking about how your solutions, what you're going to do is help me reduce manufacturing cycle time. How is your solution going to help me reduce labor costs? And then we jump over to the CFO. And the CFO is looking at things like, well, how do we more profitably spend? How do we optimize spending, right? Because they typically aren't getting all the detail, like, here's labor, here's overhead, here's material costs, but they are looking at things like gross profit margin. So I'm talking to you, Danny, the CFO. I'm not going to get into all the details, but let me explain to you, Danny, how we can help you improve, your overall profitability. Or we also know that I'm trying to optimize assets. Everyone thinks I got all this cash. I really don't. A lot of that's committed to the next acquisition. Well, tell me how you can improve, my working capital, reduce the cash operating cycle. Tell me how you can increase my fixed asset utilization. they're all working on the same thing. The message is going to be different, but it all starts with the how, and then this movement into the how much.
And notice, if I could, what we're not talking about is a product or a solution, because it rings hollow. But what happens as you go through this exercise, Danny, is then you begin to speak, not only better understand the industry that you serve, but be able to speak on a persona basis, right? The language that matters to them, right? Look at this. You're not going to talk to a CFO about first pass yield. He or she doesn't necessarily care about it. They know what it is, but it's not in his or her purview. Whereas when you start talking about cash operating cycle, it resonates. You can dig those out by doing things like looking at executive comp, and also just understanding the personas, getting deeper into that, just to pull out what their scorecard might be.
Yeah, I want to, Danny, I want to build on what Melody said. You know, if you look at something like this, it's not about the product, right? It's old, what the marketing story about, are you going to a store to buy a drill bit? No, what I really want is a hole. And in this case, right, you need analytics. No, what I really want to do is improve on-time delivery, and they're a part of it. And then just real quick, the other piece is once we've got our how story down, give me some, especially at the executive level, give me some insights to how big this is. So for example, let's say we are really good at helping companies through sensors and everything reduce maintenance costs. You need to know your history, right? So let's say we know our history. We know on average we can reduce that by 10%. Well, I can't promise that to you, but I could say, hey, Danny, for a company your size, a 10% improvement. We work $30 million a year. Is that enough to get you interested, or should I take the earlier flight home? So
Sure.
it's the how and then the how much.
Right. No, this is great. So actually, I apologize anybody who may be listening to this on the iTunes podcast. We have a great slide up here. You're not able to actually see it, but we'll put it in the show notes. If they can access it, they can download it there. Certainly, we'll have it on the website. This is awesome. As we're walking through sort of this great map on this process we've been hearing. So this is fantastic stuff, and I really appreciate you. Thank you guys kind of spending some time walking us through this. Obviously, we could go on and on and on and on. There's a lot here. I don't think either of you are passionate about this at all whatsoever.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And
too much coffee. That's what it is.
But it'll do that too. That and other things. But we are. I'm excited about this. Just a lot of things that I got out of this personally. I mean, really, I think some of the big things, big highlights for me, anyways, were definitely really just starting with those questions and just asking, how can we help? And then definitely the scorecard, looking at really what are the company's objectives and how do we fit into that versus we're going to sell this, we're going to sell this, we're going to sell this, and then the different people that are involved, the influencers and decision makers. Right. What resonates with them, what doesn't. And I think a great thing is this really harps on having that conversation, making sure that sales and marketing are on the same page, that marketing, how does this translate to them, and to make sure that the information resonates, that they're putting out there to start generating leads, that this stuff is influenced majorly in there, so that it really hits them and says, oh yeah, this is this is relevant, it's important. So, man, wow.
You got it.
All right. So, again, thank you so much again for coming on here. If any of our viewers have any questions, or anything, how can they reach out to you?
Sure. We welcome any questions, or please do find us at finlistics.com, our website, and from there you can learn more about what we do, how we do it, how we serve clients in manufacturing, industrial. And there you can also find our phone numbers, emails, and please do reach out. If you could put that in the speaker notes, that'd be great.
Absolutely. There'll be show notes, and we'll have it. All that information will be up there for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And certainly, again, thank you for watching this video or listening to it if you're coming on iTunes. Please also remember, if you like this, we'd be great. We'd love it if you could put a review on there. If you're watching on YouTube or whatever other social media platform, like us, subscribe, do all the things. It'd be awesome, so we continue bringing this awesome information to you. Until next time, thanks so much for watching, and we will catch you on the next episode.